to the evening chanting in English on page 19 of the dark brown chanting book volume 1. To the Blessed One, the Lord, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, to the teaching which he expounded so well, and to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we render with offerings a rightful homage. It is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, still had compassion for later generations. May these simple offerings be accepted for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and Blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. Now let us pay preliminary homage to the Buddha, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One, homage to the Blessed, Noble, and perfectly enlightened One. Now let us chant the recollection of the Buddha. A good word of the Blessed One's reputation has spread as follows. He, the Blessed One, is indeed the Pure One, the perfectly enlightened One. He is impeccable in conduct and understanding, the accomplished One, the knower of the worlds. He trains perfectly those who wish to be trained. He is teacher of gods and humans. He is awake and holy. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Buddha. The Buddha, the truly worthy one, endowed with such excellent qualities, whose being is composed of purity, transcendental wisdom, and compassion, who has enlightened the wise like the sun, awakening the lotus. I bow my head to that peaceful chief of conquerors, the Buddha, who is the safe, secure refuge of all beings, as the first object of recollection. I venerate him with bowed head. I am indeed the Buddha's servant. The Buddha is my Lord and guide. The Buddha is sorrow's destroyer, who bestows blessings on me. To the Buddha I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk. the Buddha's path of awakening. For me there is no other refuge. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Buddha and the blessing of this practice, by its power, may all obstacles be overcome. By body, speech, or mind, for whatever wrong action I've committed toward the Buddha, may my acknowledgement of fault be accepted, that in the future there may be restraint regarding the Buddha. Now let us chant the recollection of the Dhamma. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading inwards, to be experienced individually by the wise. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Dhamma. It is excellent because it is well expounded, and it can be divided into path and fruit, learning and liberation. The Dhamma holds those who uphold it from falling into delusion. I revere the excellent teaching, that which removes darkness, the Dhamma which is the supreme, secure refuge of all beings, as the second object of recollection. I venerate it with bowed head. I am indeed the Dhamma's servant. The Dhamma is my Lord and guide. The Dhamma is sorrow's destroyer, and it bestows blessings on me. To the Dhamma I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk this excellent way of truth. For me there is no other refuge. The Dhamma is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Dhamma and the blessing of this practice, by its power, may all obstacles be overcome. By body, speech, or mind, for whatever wrong action I've committed toward the Dhamma, may my acknowledgement of fault be accepted, that in the future there may be restraint regarding the Dhamma. Now let us chant the recollection of the Sangha. They are the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, who have practiced directly, who have practiced insightfully, those who practice with integrity. That is the 4 pairs, the 8 kinds of noble beings. These are the Blessed One's disciples. Such ones are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of respect. They give occasion for incomparable goodness to arise in the world. Now let us chant the supreme praise of the Sangha. Born of the Dhamma, that Sangha which has practiced well, The field of the Sangha, formed of 8 kinds of noble beings, guided in body and mind by excellent morality and virtue. I revere that assembly of noble beings, perfected in purity, the Sangha, which is the supreme, secure refuge of all beings. The third object of recollection, I venerate it with bowed head. I am indeed the Sangha's servant. The Sangha is my Lord and guide. The Sangha is sorrow's destroyer, and it bestows blessings on me. To the Sangha I dedicate this body and life, and in devotion I will walk the well-practiced way of the Sangha. For me there is no other refuge. The Sangha is my excellent refuge. By the utterance of this truth, may I grow in the Master's way. By my devotion to the Sangha and the blessing of this practice, by its power, may all obstacles be overcome. By body, speech, or mind, for whatever wrong action I've committed toward the Sangha, may my acknowledgement of fault be accepted, that in the future there may be restraint regarding the Sangha. So we could go ahead with the Dhamma talk request, and also the idea is if multiple people signed up, you can join in and all do it at the same time. So please.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. As everyone is aware, we've been together for a week. Might feel like 100 years in the cooker, but Friday has come around again. So 7 days, 1 week has gone by, and naturally the awareness of the schedule and the retreat due to finish on Sunday, then as Ralph was mentioning this morning, the mind naturally goes towards an imagined future, towards planning, preparing, thinking about the other world. I won't say the real world, the other world. I tend to think life on a retreat is closer to reality than the other versions, but I'm biased. So, but in many of the conversations that we've had, then people have been asking about how do we transfer the lessons that we learn, the qualities that we've been developing during this time. How does that translate into the other environments where we have to have a name and a personality, job title, rather than being, blob number 7, row 8. Which can be quite a relief. I was saying to people I enjoy traveling on planes. People say, what's it like traveling on planes? And I say, well, I enjoy the anonymity, just being 17C, the guy in a brown sheet. You're not Ajahn Amaro, you're just 17C. So then considering the various things that are significant or what is valuable or what we can carry through. So I think, and I was mentioning this the other day, the quality of spiritual friendship, drawing close to good people. Sat Purisa Sangseva is a long Pali word. Sat, true or real, good. Purisa, person. Sangseva, association. So associating with good people, drawing close to well-rounded, good-hearted people. So during a retreat like this, this is a kind of good behavior club. This is that we all gather together to be our very best and to cultivate wholesome, skillful qualities. But we can see very directly, very immediately, the powerful effect that has, very intensified in a silent retreat situation like this. But even in the broader world with our families, or in the workplace, or in society in general, then the degree to which we can draw close to good-hearted, well-rounded people, the degree to which we can spend time with like-minded folks, and in the many and various ways that we can draw close to each other, physically in meditation groups, also online kind of gatherings, and many people sort of live through Zoom or Microsoft Teams and such like connecting vessels. But there are many ways we can gather together with good people to emphasize and strengthen these wholesome qualities. And I've mentioned many times, I'm quite open about it. I don't feel that I would have had any hope at all of developing anything like the good qualities that I have if I hadn't been able to be part of a sangha and draw close to good people. I'm far too spongy, far too easily influenced by everything around me, and so carried away by enthusiasms and activities and other people's priorities. So deliberately putting myself in a kind of formalized good behavior club, the sangha, then I feel that's been extraordinarily beneficial. So that associating with good people, and as the Buddha said when another one of those not so Ananda dialogues, when and it seems like the unspoken preamble is that it seems like Venerable Ananda has been talking with another of the sangha members, and the other person has been saying, "Yeah, meditation. This is the true thing. This is what really matters." And seemingly Ananda has said, "Well, I think that good friendship, spiritual friendship, is also part of the picture." And so he's gone to the Buddha to affirm whether he's got it right or whether he hasn't got it right. And so he says to the Buddha, is it not the case that that spiritual friendship, kalyana mittata, good friendship, spiritual friendship, is half of the holy life? And then the Buddha says, not so, Ananda, not so. It's not half the holy life. It's the whole of the holy life. So he points out that Ananda had was understating it rather than overstating it, that quality of spiritual friendship. And we can see just the amount of effort that the Buddha put into creating the code of discipline that forms the monastic community, and the vast amount of advice he gave to the lay community, and the structures he put in place for the lay people to be guided and trained and to learn. Many people don't think of the Buddha as a lawyer, but we have 6 large books of the Vinaya discipline, which is they're law books. So the Buddha was a law professor, and his the law books that he wrote, or at least spoke and then were recorded later on, that they still guide our life and practice 2,600 years later. So that the Buddha put a huge amount of effort into creating structures that would help spiritual community to be sustained. What they call the fourfold assembly of monastics and lay people, and so that that's not an accident. That's not just a sort of a lifestyle choice. It's like a very deliberately crafted process of helping us to help each other. And so I feel that the different ways that we can draw close to each other and benefit each other are very, very important. Also, the first verse of the Mangala Sutta we've been reciting, the highest blessings, not to associate with fools, but to associate with the wise. This is the highest blessing. Often when I've talked in this way, and I've kind of promoted this point of view, and then people say, Ajahn, I'd love not to associate with fools, but you haven't met my family, or like, you should come. Can you come to my workplace? But there are different ways of associating, and so even if you do have difficult members of your family, and obviously you want to try and harmonize with those, it can also be the case that there are members of your family who you feel are wise, are skillful, are helpful, are beneficial, so one can draw closer to them. So if you're having trouble with a particular family member, it's to the wise and helpful, kind and say, discerning members of the family, you can draw close and say, "Oh, what are we going to do about Uncle Joe?" And such like, my sister, she's doing it again. What do you think we can do? And so that in the workplace, in the family, in society, we do have that capacity. We can make choices to draw close to the wise, to the beneficial, to the unselfish, and that those who have a skillful standard of conduct and attitude. Also, association doesn't just come with the people that you're related to or you're working with. It's also, who do you watch on YouTube? Whose books are you reading? What do you fill your mind with in terms of social philosophy, political statements? What do we choose to put our attention onto? That's also association. So, what kind of values do we fill our heads with? And where are we making wise choices? So I feel that as a sort of a beginning point to the degree of which we're developing mindfulness and establishing vijja rather than feeding the avijja factor, feeding the vijja, the awakened awareness factor. So number one on the list is that choosing who we associate with, what we fill our minds with, and who we draw close to, whose attitudes and qualities do we value. So, you fill in the blanks for your own lives. Everyone here has a different living situation, different work, family situation, living in different places. So, fill in the details for yourselves, but to be strongly considering that, to be bearing that in mind. That's a tremendous way that we can carry on this supportive presence or supportive spirit for Dhamma practice into the other world. You can't have everyone keeping noble silence, following your meditation routine, but just drawing close to like-minded people to the degree that is possible, and being ready to learn from the good-hearted, wise people that we do have around us. And I think that's something that's extremely significant, very, very good to bear in mind. I recited that sequence of the causes of the fueling of avijja at Sutta number 61 in the Numerical Discourses Book of the Tens, and so that also it's if you have the link to catastrophe apostrophe, it's in there as well, so you can look it up through that link. But it is a helpful sequence of causal relations to get to know. But also the term sapurisa is something that I thought is also good to open up a little bit, because it's there. In the teachings, there are 7 qualities that a good-hearted or well-rounded person, a true friend or a good person, a well-rounded person has. And so, along with drawing close to to sapurisa to help you, you can be a sapurisa for others. Yeah. Gasp! You mean I'm not just a headache for the people around me? Yeah. I'm not just intruding on other people's peace and happiness? But, no, we can be a good friend for others, and so it's another of the Buddha's many lists. But so the 7 qualities of a sapurisa, a well-rounded or good-hearted person, and it's kind of I like to think of this as spelling out the details of mindfulness and full awareness, sati sampajanya. If you really want to develop that quality of mindfulness or full awareness, or as Lumpur Sumedho calls it, intuitive awareness, then this sort of spells out the details of how that can be done. This is a bit of a Pali list, but yeah, bear with me. Things are recorded, and so it's also, you can follow this up in the teachings. So the first of the qualities of a sapurisa is Dhamma, which and the anya in the word and the last part of it, Dhamma. It means the quality of, or one who is embodying the quality of, or has knowledge of, or manifests that quality. So Dhamma, it's contemplating the causes of things, where things have come from. Okay, how has this come to be? Where's this come from? What's the origin of this? So to develop that mindfulness and full awareness, that contemplative attitude of, okay, how have we got to this place? Where has this come from? What's the cause of this? So you're looking at the origins or the sources of things. Second one is Aj.Nyaniko, A-T-T-H, Anyutta, which is contemplating the consequences. Where is this likely to go? Where is this headed? You can't predict the future, but it's what they call consequential thinking. That, okay, if this is followed, what's the likely result? So that sense of, rather than, again, acting impulsively or reactively, it's that, well, this is really interesting, what's it going to cost? Or are the rest of my team interested? Or who should I talk to about this? Or, yeah, this is really interesting, but is it legal? These kind of things. Yeah. So consequential thinking is a sort of modern day parlance for this. So Aj.Nyaniko with an A-T-T-H, Aj.Nyaniko, looking at the consequences or results. Third one is Aj.Nyaniko, A-T-T, without the H. So that's literally knowing yourself, knowing the Atta, knowing your own character. So are you an artistic type? Are you a mathematical type? Are you extrovert? Are you an introvert? What is your character? Do you like to be around lots of other people? Are you gregarious, or are you very much more comfortable on your own? What's your character? So this is not feeding self-view, but rather this getting to know this particular condition, how it works, where you flourish and where you're challenged, your own limitations, your own talents. Not to be feeding self-view, but rather getting to know and take into consideration the qualities of your life, where you can help, where you can't help, what you're good at, what you're not good at. So living at Apayagiri and being co-abbot with Lumpur Prasanno for many years, he's extremely practical. I'm more of a theoretician and a wordy guy. He's much more earthy and practical. And so I'd look at a map and think, oh, that'd be a good place to have the water tank. And he'd say, that's below the Kuti, Ajahn Amaro. Water flows downhill, not uphill. Oh, yeah, right. It looks a good spot on the map, but convenient. Easy to get the tank in there, but it's like, then the water won't flow uphill. Yeah, good point. So over and over again, we would have that kind of exchange. And whereas he would be trying to write a letter and be sitting in front, he's a very good typist, he's quite quick as a typist, and he'd be sitting there in front of his screen, and you'd hear these sort of slightly frustrated grumbles coming in, and after 15, 20 minutes, he might say, Ajahn Amaro, can you help me with this? This isn't working. And because I have a gift with words, I say, okay, there you go. Like, yes, that's what I wanted to say. And so I could just the words would just sort of arrange themselves quite happily. I'm not trying to boast. It's just he does the physical world, I do words. And so if I try to govern everything or think I've got all the best ideas with regards to the physical structures, people are going to suffer, and I'm sure they did. Yeah. So when it comes to that, I get out of the way. I don't have a good imagination for three-dimensional space and how things fit together in space. I do have a good imagination for words and expressions and punctuation and so on. So also at Amaravati, Ajahn Nyaniko, who's the vice abbot, he's absolutely brilliant with ceremonies. And so whenever we got anything to arrange, like the 90th birthday celebrations for Lumpur Sumedho, Ajahn Nyaniko, we have 7 different gatherings that will be happening over these 3 days, and so can you help? And so then he would craft the comings and goings and the seating arrangements and how everything would be best put together in the temple, which is a big space rather like this at Amaravati. And that's his talent. He's absolutely brilliant at that, the feeling for space and people coming and going and sitting in relationship to each other. Yes, fantastic. So getting to know your own talents and your own limitations, and not feeling like you should be everything for all people at all times, but and not always just playing to your strong suit. Occasionally it's good for us to stretch ourselves, but also the more there's that Aj.Nyaniko, knowing your own character, then you are able to fit into situations and work with people far more effectively, harmoniously. And when someone else is better at something than you, say, please, can you help? Or if you know that you've got a gift that someone else hasn't got, said, do you need help with that equation? Can I lend a hand? Would you appreciate someone to look at that for you? Oh yes, please, thank you very much. You can contribute. So then the next one on the list, fourth on the list, is Aj.Nyaniko with an M, Aj.Nyaniko. So that's knowing the right amount. So that can be applied in many different areas. So like the right amount of food to eat comes in our monastic training, knowing what's the right amount, how much your body needs for that day, and then that developing that sense of, okay, this is enough food, and then putting the utensil down, the spoon or the fork, or just saying, okay, that's all that's needed for today. It's also to do with your physical limitations in terms of exercise, when you know, okay, I'm exhausted, or that's enough, or tolerating physical pain. Okay, that's enough time for the posture to change. So knowing the right amount, again, it's a part of sati sampajanya, and that intuitive awareness, intuitive wisdom, mindfulness and full awareness, knowing the right amount, Aj.Nyaniko. Then the next one, fifth on the list, is Kala-Nyaniko. Kala is time, so knowing the right time for things. So it does include punctuality, but it's not confined to punctuality. But knowing when you've been having a conversation, and that sense of, okay, I think that's enough. We can wrap this up. That's gone on long enough. Or choosing the right time to have a conversation that you're having some emotional upset with someone, and they're just sort of heading out the door to go to work, and you say, I need to talk to you, and you got that I need to talk to you look on your face, and they this is not right. This is not a good time. This is not the right time. So Kala-Nyaniko is that not just punctuality, timeliness, and knowing the right amount of time or the appropriate time, all of that domain. Then the last two, one is Parisa-Nyaniko. Parisa means the group, or knowing which the group that you're a part of. Are you with other meditators, other people interested in Buddhism? Are you a school teacher? Are you talking to a group, a class of 7-year-olds? Are you on a bus with strangers? Are you sitting in an airport departure lounge? Are you with the family at a Thanksgiving dinner? Who are you with? So that we are attuning to the group that we're a part of at that time, and we are different people in different situations. At a family dinner, you're a different person than when you're the professor in front of the class at your college, or if you're a patient sitting in the dentist chair, you're a different person than you are if you're the surgeon operating on somebody else. That you're occupying a different identity, and so what's the group that you're a part of, and how does that you fit together with that? And then Pugala-Nyaniko, that's more specific. The Pugala is a person, who, if you're having a conversation and you're together with one other person, what's your relationship between them? Are you a parent? Are you a child? Are you a teacher? Are you a student? Are you sitting next to each other on the plane? Are you next to each other in the meditation hall? That knowing the other person and attuning your exchange, your connection, your relationship according to the dynamics of that connection. So those are the 7 qualities of a Sapurisa, or a well-rounded person. I don't expect you to memorize all those, but that I feel is helpful, both looking for those, not just looking for those qualities in others, but seeing this is what we can contribute in our home, in the workplace, in the world. we can embody those qualities as a blessing, as a gift to others. If you're carrying it around saying, I'm going to be a blessing in your life, Sapurita on the T-shirt, check me out, that's not the right direction to go. That's more kind of inflated self-view, that I'm such a blessing in your life. You're so lucky to have me working here. Then you're going to be a real pain in the neck, I can almost guarantee. But just quietly embodying those qualities and just gently bringing those, then we see the results of that and the blessings and benefit of that. So then another aspect of, say, bringing the spirit of this retreat time into the broader spread of our lives is living by the precepts, just the high standard of conduct that you all have during this time, living on the 8 precepts. The 5 precepts then is a really helpful guideline for living, how to live in a way where you're creating the causes for peacefulness, for contentment, for self-respect, being comfortable in your own skin. So that when we close the retreat, we have a formal letting go of the 8 precepts, and those who wish to determine the 5 precepts to live by, then that's a possibility, an opportunity that'll be there on the Sunday. But I do feel it's helpful to, when contemplating the 5 precepts, that we are, as I was joking at the beginning of the retreat, we can think of the precepts as being no, 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 and so don't do this, don't do that, a set of confining limitations. But as I was saying, that the 8 precepts was structured very specifically by the Buddha in terms of this is how the Arahants live, and if we adopt these behaviors, then we're living as the Arahants do, and that by adopting those behaviors, then we can feel and know directly the results of those ways of being, that manner of relating to the living world around us. So another very interesting teaching with respect to the 5 precepts, not identical, but I would say closely related, is a teaching called the 8 streams of merit, or the 8 streams of blessing. So the first 3 are taking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So the first streams or great currents or rivers of blessing in our lives. So the first 3 are taking the refuge in the Triple Gem. And then the last 5 are the 5 precepts. And in this particular teaching, the Buddha speaks about them in a very interesting way. He says that if you undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature, then you give to innumerable, incalculable numbers of living beings freedom from distress, freedom from suffering, freedom from anxiety. And you also give to yourself incalculable freedom from distress, freedom from suffering, freedom from anxiety. And so it's a gift that you are giving. It's called Abhayadana, the gift of fearlessness. Similarly with the second precept and the rest of the 5 precepts, if you refrain from stealing, if you don't engage in sexual misconduct, if you refrain from lying, you refrain from intoxicants, then you give freedom from fear, freedom from distress, freedom from anxiety to innumerable beings, and you also give that to yourself. So these are called the 5 great gifts of 5 Mahadana, and as the Buddha points out, respected and admired by wise beings from time immemorial. So that's a very lovely way to think of the precepts, again, as a gift, the Mahadana, 5 great gifts, the 5 things that you can offer. And so, and you notice it around somewhere like Spirit Rock, the animals are not. They're not afraid. Apparently I had a turkey queuing at my door for hours today, waiting for an interview. But, if the turkeys, if they were being shot at, they wouldn't be queuing at the door. Or they would be far more anxious or scurrying away under the bushes when the 2-leggeds come around. But the turkeys and the other creatures, they're very, very casual, very comfortable. At Abhayagiri, when I was living there, when we had the little bungalow house with a deck, and there was a honeysuckle plant at the end of the deck and some hanging baskets, and the deer would climb up on the deck and just be happily chomping away at the foliage, just quite casually, and then you come out of the house and say, hello. Just look at you and then carry on eating. Particularly during this season when it's so dry and then we're watering those plants, so it's like, hey, this is good stuff. I'm not, and they would know you're not going to interrupt them or harm them, so they just carry on chomping away, very very comfortably. At Chithurst, back in the early days of Chithurst Monastery in West Sussex, the neighbouring farmer, rather like Elmer Fudd, literally like Elmer Fudd, he felt he had permission or he had the right to come onto the Chithurst property, kill the rabbits, so the rabbits wouldn't come into his crops. And so when we said, no, you can't do that, we're Buddhists, he was going to get the law onto us. He was going to sort of complain to the authorities and say, no, I've got the right to come and gas all those rabbits or shoot them. And so we negotiated. And so we built a rabbit fence to keep the rabbits in. Normally, you build a rabbit fence to keep the rabbits out, but so news of that spread pretty rapidly around the parish. Like those Buddhists, they're serious. It was the most expensive, the largest amount of money we spent on or kind of anything, far more than on the house repairs, putting in this the rabbit fence to keep the rabbits in, to protect them. So that got us a lot of respect locally. People admired that. So. And then the rabbits got so that they were so casual. Sometimes they'd be literally like in a Roman banquet. They'd be lying on their sides. They couldn't even bother to sit up straight to eat the grass. They'd be sort of lying down and chomping away. And you just walk close by, and again they look. They wouldn't get up and run away. So they know these two-leggeds are not dangerous. This is a safe place. So that's abhayadana. That's a giving of fearlessness. And so that's a lovely way to live. Also, in the workplace, in the family, people know that you're going to tell them the truth. That you're not going to try and get anything from them. You're not trying to manipulate them. You're not going to steal from them. If you're talking to them, they know that she says what she means, and she means what she says, and that I can trust this person. When you come in the room, they don't put their bag under the chair. Oh my God, it's him again. No, people trust you. They're glad to have you around, and so that's again a beautiful thing to be able to offer. So I think I would say that taking the 5 precepts seriously as a guideline, I like to think of it as a portable retreat. You can take that retreat environment with you. You can't control the behaviors of the other people around you in the workplace or in the family and society, but you can create a zone of safety, of blessing to some degree. You can create that abhaya, like Abhayagiri. That's the fearless mountain. That's the name of the monastery. So that abhayadana is a very beautiful kind of gift. So another of the things I feel that I've mentioned in a few of the discussion groups we've had, that because many of us have got very active lives and a lot of responsibilities in the workplace, in society, and in the family, and so on. Yeah, I sit on about more than 20 committees. So I live with a lot of agendas and minutes, and do a lot of meetings, many meetings in my life as an abbot of Amaravati, so a large place, and so we have at the moment a very big building project going on. So when a lot of things are going on, you have a lot of responsibilities, and your name is on many important things, then it's very easy to get drawn into the details of what's being discussed, the projects that you have underway, the material you're supposed to be teaching, or the issues in the family, or in the world that you're dealing with. So the mind gets very easily drawn into the narratives and the to be dones, and the kind of dynamics between you and other people, the people you agree with, the people you don't agree with, people who you're trying to work with, and often contentious or challenging relationships in the workplace, in the family, and so on. But even in the midst of the most complicated and active lives, whether it's around a lot of people, or you have a lot of responsibility in the material world, or with gardening, farming, social work with other people, whatever the field might be, your body is always present 100% of the time. Nobody ever gets so distracted that their body disappears. That has never happened. Like during this week we've had together, some of you might have felt like, "Wow, I really lost it there." Right? I'm not reading anybody's mind, but it's quite conceivable that during this time that, "Wow, I really got totally carried away on that memory, that fantasy, that plan." Yeah. But when you realized you got totally lost, had your body vanished? No, it was faithfully sitting there on the chair or the cushion, ready for you to come back to, right? So nobody has ever been so distracted that their body just wasn't there to come back to. So it's like the most faithful, dependable friend. It's always here. So body awareness, developing that attunement to the body in the midst of a contentious business meeting, a family dinner, and a crowded journey on the bar through the Bay Area or wherever you might be, your body is always right here. It's always absolutely here. So the body awareness is a really helpful, reliable resource that even in the midst of conversations, even in the midst of giving a presentation or in the big discussion or whatever, you can turn at least part of your attention inward and notice, how am I holding the body? What are my hands doing? How tight is my jaw, my shoulders, my belly? How does the body feel in this moment? And just that degree of turning attention to the body, feeling it, knowing it, and attuning to the body, then we can then trust in the awareness of that and let the whole system adjust and adapt. And the more that we attune to the body and get to know it, and as there's an accepting and friendly attitude towards the body, then we get to know its nature, its character, and it becomes more and more reliable as a kind of measure, and that we can feel the energy of our own body, and you feel the energy of the people around us, or the living world around us, whether in a forest or on a mountain or by the seashore or even the city. Then we can just pick up the kind of resonances of our own body, the world around us, the kind of say the living nature of the land, of the people, of the things, and just feeling that this is this is a strong one. It's not an earthquake. It's just you're in the middle of a contentious meeting with the local planning office, or that you're a very intense Thanksgiving dinner with the family, but just feeling the intensity of energy of the people around you, or walking through a forest, or you walking up on a mountaintop. That's the sense of the presence of the earth and the sky and the land, the waters around you. Just we can feel those. Sometimes we can feel those kind of things in the body, just as you can feel the energy of other people, and just say, "Oh, okay, this is very agitated, or this is very peaceful. This is the tone, the texture of this moment, this time, this place." Our own emotional states, if we're excited, just being able to, rather than you should or you shouldn't be excited, to say, "Oh, this is what excitement feels like." If you're anxious, rather than focusing on the thing that you're worried about, "Oh, this is what anxiety feels like." If you're really upset, you're in a meeting, having a conversation, and somebody's just said something that's really irritating, upsetting, that they're just turning that attention and going, "Oh, this is what being enraged is feeling." This is what this feels like. It's this way. No, not whether you should or you shouldn't be enraged, but here it is. It feels like this. There's this vibration, this tone, this sensation. We don't have to make a big story around it. We don't have to read into it, but just again, trusting in that awareness of feeling the presence of this place, this time, these people, this situation. That appreciation is helps us to be in tune with where we're at. There was a story that Jack Cornfield told when he picked up Ajahn Chah from the airport in Boston with Joseph Pabakaro when they came to the US for the first time, and they were driving along the road towards Barre, Massachusetts, towards IMS, and Jack speaks pretty good Thai. He lived there in the Peace Corps for some time, and so Luang Por Chah said, "Stop the car, jot lo, stop the car." And then Jack said, "Oh, there must be some bathroom emergency or something." So he stopped the car and pulled over. And Ajahn Chah opened the door and then hopped over the fence and just went striding off across this field into the forest. And Jack thought, "Oh, must be a bathroom emergency." And then Ajahn Chah apparently was there for some time. So Jack thought, "I better go and see he's okay." So I think he and Pabakaro kind of left the car and went into the forest, and it was just Luang Por Chah just kind of taking in the trees. It's like he didn't need a bathroom. It was just like he saw this very abundant forest with these beautiful trees and thought, right, forest, yes, this American forest. This is a new thing. Let's and just drawn by the presence of the forest, just wanting to go in there and soak it up. So. Jack can probably tell the story more accurately, or Joseph Pabakaro, but thought that was one of the interesting stories of Luang Por Chah. And he wasn't at all interested. They tried to show him around MIT and Harvard University, completely uninterested. Like, here's the great library, Luang Por. But the trees and the forest is like, oh, yes, now we're talking. Yeah. So. Another of the aspects of our world that I feel is very significant and also came up in a number of the conversations is our relationships with other people, and that the way that we connect with each other. So here we have this retreat environment, and we're relating with great empathy and sincerity, looking out for each other. Glad to be in each other's company. Ajahn Nyaniko, was it this morning? No, yesterday morning. Said, "Thank you for being here." So, and so that this is a very wholesome, lovely, but also a very simple way of relating with each other. It's a non-needy, non-possessive kind of a way of relating with each other. Many of you don't even know each other's names. Unless you're kind of looking on the interview groups or oh, that's his name. So, but that, I feel it's helpful to look at and to explore the difference that we have in a retreat situation and the kind of relationships that we develop in this, which are very sincere, very real, very caring, but not possessive, and how that can contrast with our other relationships in our families, in the workplace, and in the world, and that again, just to be looking at the way that we connect, we bond with others, and what we expect of others and what they expect of us. So, and this came up in a couple of the conversations that I was having with some of you. And particularly, I feel it's helpful to understand that in Buddhist psychology, there's essentially two kinds of love. There's possessive love, which is called piyata, P-I-Y-A-T-A, piyata, so dearness. And that's possessive love, like I belong to you, you belong to me, I am yours, you are mine, and parent, child, teacher, student, etc., etc. So that that kind of connecting or loving, as long as there is that possessive quality, the Buddha pointed out there's always going to be suffering involved in that, which might seem like a very sour attitude, but there's a number of teachings where he pointed this out. And he said, if you have 100 dear ones, you have 100 pains, 50 dear ones, 50 pains. 20 dear ones, 20 pains, 10 dear ones, 10 pains, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 dear one, 1 pain, no dear ones, no pains. So you might hear that and go, that sounds a bit glum, a bit sour. But also the Buddha, ocean-like compassion with infinite love for all beings. So there has to be another part of the equation. So he's saying that if we hold each other, whether it's parent to child, partner to partner, teacher to student, or however, if there is that possessiveness, that sense of ownership, you've got to be a certain way for me, I should be a certain way for you, then that's creating a dependency built around self-view. And there's always, just intrinsically, it's not that the Buddha was being negative, nihilistic, or sour, but rather that's the equation, that's the physics of it. If a relationship is built around self-view, necessarily dukkha is going to be there. So, the other alternative, the other kind of loving, I would suggest, is what we call liberative love, or love that is non-possessive. So metta, karuna, these where you live in the buildings, metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, living in the Brahma Viharas. The buildings are easy, the mind states are more challenging, so freely acknowledged. But so those qualities, the Brahma Viharas, they are the natural emotions of the heart free of greed, hatred, and delusion. Those qualities can be cultivated and they can lead towards freeing the heart from greed, hatred, and delusion as well. But I would say for an enlightened being like the Buddha, that's the sort of the emotional, the patterns of relationship or emotion in the heart of an enlightened being like the Buddha is moving between loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and serenity, according to the time, the place, the situation. So there's abundant love, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, ocean-like compassion. So abundant love, but completely non-possessive. And so it's a different kind of loving. So we can't just snap our fingers and say, okay, no more possessive love for me. That's over. I'll just have the liberative one. That's I'll just unplug that one and plug the other one in instead. It's not that easy for us, but at least we can see and makes a bit more sense of the difficulties that we have in our relationships. And it's not just in romantic relationships or parent-child family relations. This is also in monasteries as well. I don't think Ajahn Nyaniko or the other Sangha members would disagree and say, you can still be very possessive about your ajahn or your students. And if I, in the role of teaching, if I've got to have the students or the people who I've given ordination to or studying with me, if I've got to have them appreciate me in a certain way, or I have certain expectations, I put all this effort into your practice, so you should be doing this for me, and quid pro quo, as they say in Latin expression. Like, I'm doing this for you, you should do this for me. Then it's a business deal. It's not liberative love. It's a business agreement. And so I've got to have you being a certain way for me, and then I feel like I've got to be a certain way for you. That's a really, I would say, kind of tight and a stressful way of relating. If there's the non-possessive, liberative kind of attitude, then you do what you can for the people who come close to you and want to learn from you. You do what you can, and then what they do with it, it's up to them. And I'm not trying to boast, but when this came up in conversation a couple of years ago at Amaravati, and I mentioned I'm never disappointed in people, and one of the 8 precept nuns kind of looked at me and said, "Is that possible?" And I said, "Yeah, I never feel disappointed. I never feel betrayed or let down by anybody." She kind of gave me this look. I think there's some family history here. There's like this. There was like no place she could put that. It was a very kind of poignant moment. It's like, wow. It wasn't Sister Vidura. It was, just in case you're wondering, it was another. It was just in case that we were wondering. But it was poignant. Like she'd had such a sort of, as when I talked with her later on, that had such a kind of barrage of expectations put upon her by her family. Like, you should be like this, you shouldn't be like that. You owe us. You should fulfill the family's aspirations, and that was such a constant presence in her life that the idea of someone in a senior position or a kind of position of authority saying that I'm never disappointed in people, I never feel betrayed or let down. I don't. I mean, I'm not pretending. It's just I don't. So I'm not trying to boast, but it's like that. It was this kind of enormous gap. Like she had never thought that was possible. Seemingly, that was her personal experience of being so different. So I feel that, and I freely acknowledge my own, not just my spiritual teachers, but my parents. I think did a fantastic job with me and my sisters, having no expectations of us. It helped that they were complete academic failures. They were very gifted in their own ways, but I think they passed one public exam between the two of them. My mother was a gifted artist and managed to get into Chelsea Art College. And my dad passed a German exam because he just happened to revise the exact text that they had in the exam the night before, completely by chance. But so they were pleasantly surprised when my sisters and I started getting good marks at school. So, but they'd both gone through the Second World War in the British Army. And they were sort of lucky to have got out of it alive and survived, and took their life as a kind of bonus, and then us kids coming along. So I felt really blessed. That was a good example from my parents, but also Lumpur Cha, Lumpur Sameto, that they're never asking you to be anything for them. Just they're there to help and to give you opportunities, and particularly, again, I mentioned in one or two of the groups being around Lumpur Cha, even though I couldn't understand the language, the sense of he doesn't need anything from anybody. He's totally related and connected, attuned to everyone, really plugged in, but he doesn't need to be, and doesn't need anyone to be anything for him. And as I was saying in that group, I got as far as, wow, how do you do that? And so I hope it doesn't come across as sort of cold-hearted or indifferent, but it's I feel a very beautiful quality that we can develop. We can learn to relate with each other, those closest to us and nearest and most important to us, in that non-possessive way, so that our caring is absolutely sincere and wholehearted, but I don't need you to be anything for me. And then the more that we can radiate that out into the world, then the more that also, I would say, gives other people the possibility of functioning in a similar way. So there's a lot more that could be said about that area, but I do feel that that looking at if we want an environment, there's a question of how do we sustain an environment like this, then the more that we can relate to the people in our workplace, in the family, and in the world, as we do with the other fellow retreatants in an event like this, with great respect, with kindness, appreciation, care, and thanking each other for being here, but not needing everyone else to be fulfilling a particular requirement for us, but just to rejoice in each other's presence. Then that makes a very different world that we're living in. So. When I go back to Amaravati, Thursday of next week, I have 5 more people to be taking bhikkhu ordination, 5 novices, so 5 more kids. I'll have 5 more children next week. So I've got about, I think, 47 sons and 11 daughters, monastic-wise, at the moment. So, but it's a. I try to work with that in terms of that, the same principles I've been describing. That you do what you can to be available, to help others, to be there for them, but without needing them to be a particular way or to kind of perform particular sort of roles in your world, to be players in your world, but rather offering what you can and then let people do with it as they wish. And that's a very spacious, a very, I feel, very, very bright and liberating way to cultivate relationships. But you make your own choices. So I won't make your own decisions for you. But I feel that getting a sense for how that works, and there's two different kinds of loving, just having a picture for that and words for that can help tilt the heart towards that which is more beneficial and liberating. So I offer these words for consideration this evening. Your cue. I don't need you to be anything for me, but we need the Handamayang or the world can't keep turning. So let us finish with the Buddha's words on loving kindness. Oh, actually, let's do the English version of the Suffusion with Divine Abidings, which is found on page 43 in the dark brown chanting books, page 43. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with compassion, likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with gladness, likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a heart imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. And the closing homage, page 28. Oh, we did English, so 20, 27, 29. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teaching, so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples, who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
Thank you for listening. To learn how you can support the teachers and Dharma Seed, please visit dharmaseed.org.